Okay, good morning, everyone. Yes, I'm Kim Wee from ASRJC. Yeah. So let me just do an overview of today's talk. It's a little long. It's about 50 minutes currently. I'm talking now. First part, I'll just introduce who am I. Then I'll go through some prompting techniques relevant to the current syllabus. Then I'll be introducing the ChatGPT API to build for your own web apps. Then after that, I will build some code. Then we will try to understand the code together. Then after that, we will use ChatGPT to write a conclusion. Yes, so who am I? I'm in ASRJC now, and I'm in STEM and ICT champion. I'm a non-computing student, but here am I doing a talk. Okay, prompting techniques. This is the first part, yes. And my reminder is to use all of these to help in your homework because you realize that you'll be able to use ChatGPT more effectively. So for the first prompt, is actually, can you summarize George Orwell's Animal Farm? And my second prompt over here is, can you summarize George Orwell's Animal Farm relating to the theme of power? So let us put this inside ChatGPT. If you all have your accounts logged in, can you all also do the prompting together? Okay, so you can just go to ChatGPT, right? Okay. So we can do the prompting together. Okay, just a check now. How many of you do not have access to ChatGPT? Can you all raise your hands? Just raise so that I see whether do I need to start my web app. I should have, never mind. Okay, for the sake of for the ones who do not have access, right, I have a web app over here. So I will also run the app concurrently so that you all can use it. Do not use my API key, please. I have Chrome. I have Chrome. Sorry. Okay, you all can scan the QR code on the right if you all do not have access to ChatGPT, and then we can do the prompting together. Okay, I'll give you all 15 seconds. Okay, I'll be moving on. So when you access the website, you all just need to click visit site and you'll be brought over to this website. So we can do the prompting here also. So currently I will also retype my prompt. Please do not prompt. Please do not prompt random responses like hi. Yes, as you can see, too many of you did a response which is not required. So I really need your cooperation for using this web app because my API key can only have a limited amount of it. And do not click on the reset button. Yes, if not, you will get a lot of errors. So I'm going to rerun it, but please only do the prompt which I have written just now.
Huh?
No. Every time I click on a new, every time I click on this URL, it's like a new user at that page. So everyone have their own individual user. So I say I can check what they're prompting. Okay, you all can scan this new QR code, but please do not prompt it randomly. And for those who check GPT, please use your own account. Okay, we can do it again. No, too many of them is using post request. So
No, because some of the people at the back, right, they can't scan the QR code on the screen.
okay.
Yeah.
No, but currently it's not working because too many of them is using already.
Oh, so well, they cannot scan the QR codes.
No, it's I have a rate limit. Okay, my apologies. Just now we have met a technical issue, but it's fixed. Currently my web app cannot be run because too many of you are using it. There's over 70 requests per minute. So OpenAI has successfully blocked my API key, and yeah, I need to regenerate a new one soon. Okay, but it's okay. I'll be doing a live demo so you all can follow through. So in this case, when we get prompting if can you summarize George Orwell's Animal Farm, let's take a look at what ChatGPT gave us a response. So as you can see in the second paragraph, ChatGPT actually says about the plot, about what is happening in Animal Farm. Let's say maybe in chapter 1, the animals revolt against their human owner. Then after that, what happened in the story. But if we actually use the other way of prompting, which is, can you summarize George Orwell Animal Farm relating to the theme of power? Oops. Yeah, so if we try the second prompt, which is over here, okay, now let's compare both of the answers. As you can see in the first response from ChatGPT, they briefly will tell us what happens in the story, but they do not focus it to the theme. And normally the theme is what we are required to write in literature exams. So currently, if you are able to give ChatGPT a context, like for example, the context of power in Animal Farm, you will notice that ChatGPT will try to link every paragraph in relation to power. So in this case, you can really see, right, in the second paragraph, they really tell you about the set of commandments, which is not mentioned in the first response. So in this case, ChatGPT actually can craft an answer which is better suited to your needs every time you give a context. And as you can see in the last paragraph, yeah, it actually also do a very nice summary compared to the first response, which only just give you a summary of the story. So this one will try to link it to power and show you what Orwell is trying to say through Animal Farm, right? Since it's a satire of the Russian Revolution. Okay, so this is the first one. My apologies for those who cannot use the web app because yes, my API key really got rate limited. So, okay, for the second one, you all can scan this QR code over here, or you can enter the link called prompts.chat. I'll be running through how to use this website to prompt with ChatGPT. So you all will have 15 seconds. Okay, I'll be moving on. Yeah, so prompts.chat. So what is prompts.chat? Prompts.chat is actually a website which is a community website where everybody can contribute their own prompts for ChatGPT. So the second technique I'm going to teach you is to actually give ChatGPT a persona. So when you give ChatGPT a persona, it will control how ChatGPT will output the text to you. Like for example, if you say, okay, be a Abeng today, so ChatGPT will try to be an Abeng and speak to you. Basically something like that. So how can we use it for our learning? Very simple. There are already community curated prompts, which are already they have already tested and proven it to be the best possible prompt for you to use. So in this case, there's actually a lot, right? You can also you can also use ChatGPT to practice for an interview with the position interviewer, or you can also ask it to do an Excel sheet. So it can actually take over many platforms like Grammarly, Google Translate. ChatGPT can actually just do it for you as long as you provide ChatGPT a persona to use. So in this case, how will you use this is you will just copy. Yeah, you will just copy the prompt. So in this case, Control A and Control C, and then you will paste it inside ChatGPT. So when you paste this inside ChatGPT, then you will do your next prompting. Yes. So in this case, maybe I want it to be a motivational speaker. Right. So let me just do a very short demo in ChatGPT. So in this case, I will only modify the last line, which is to maybe explain the motto, right? Life is hard. Yes. Okay, and in this case, when you prompt it like that, you already make ChatGPT assume this persona and is able to give you a response which is better suited to your needs. Yeah, and in this case, he will teach you how to go into the concept with bulleted points. So in this case, you can just return to the website. I remind again, it's prompts.chat. You all can just copy anything over here, and then you all can just modify the last sentence with the inverted commas in order for ChatGPT to assume that persona. Okay. So the next one, this is the one that I curated for currently touching the A-level syllabus. So in this case, I'm pretty sure quite a amount of us take H2 Econs, right? Or H2 Math in this case. So in this case, I'll be using these two different prompts, which is explain to me how to identify a hyperbola and a vertical asymptote. But in this case, ChatGPT can also assume the role of a H2 Math teacher in junior college. And normally when you ask ChatGPT what is a hyperbola, they may think that you are in the university standard lah. Means that they will try to use more chim terms which you may not understand. So in this case, it is very important to put a context as specific as possible in order for ChatGPT to answer to your needs. So let me just copy and paste this. Okay. Oops. Okay, you can return to ChatGPT and you can also prompt this together. Okay, and this is the second one. So the differences in the two prompts is one of the prompts I actually use acting as a H2 math teacher. So let's see what's the difference that ChatGPT will give us. Okay, now I'm going to prompt the second one. Let us run through what ChatGPT has given us over here. So they briefly tell us how to identify the hyperbola, but it actually starts with y and x. Then after that, it tells me how to find the particular asymptote, which is actually negative b over a, right? Plus k. Yeah, and it also roughly tells me, it also gives me an example, and then it tells me how to find the center of the hyperbola. Yes, and the particular asymptote. But now let's currently look at the one that they give us in the H2 math teacher. So in this case, there's horizontal form and vertical form, which is actually inside our H2 math syllabus, right? So for the first step, we need to identify whether the parabola is curving along the y-axis or curving along the x-axis, right? So in this case, ChatGPT is able to capture that detail, which is needed in the H2 math syllabus currently, and it will be able to give an answer which is more suited to our needs. So in this case, I've proven to you that if you actually give ChatGPT a good persona, it will be able to give you a better answer for your needs. So maybe for secondary school students, you can also maybe prompt it by saying, acting as an O-level literature teacher in Singapore secondary schools, then you put your prompt over there. Maybe you can test this out and maybe you'll get a better result. Okay, so for the next one is actually to avoid jargon. So what do I mean by avoid jargon? Let's take a look at the first bullet point. So what are the slangs I use? The slangs are highlighted in red, and that's the things that we do not want. Because ChatGPT is trained with data, and maybe the data that they are trained with is actually not with the latest data which is in the internet. It means that they may not understand modern slangs or may not understand what you are trying to say. So in this case, even though ChatGPT has improved a lot, but when you are developing using the API, if you are using a more cost-efficient model, it may not be able to get to understand what you're trying to say, especially in models like DaVinci or Ada. Okay, so in the first case, I say, can you give me some intel on demand and supply interacting in the A-level econ syllabus? In this case, we also want to define what is intel, because intel is actually a short form for intelligence. So maybe we will want to say it as a summary lah, because that's what we are finding for. Then after I will fully spell out demand and supply. And then after I will also say economic syllabus. So this makes ChatGPT able to understand what we are trying to say better. So now let's take a look. Oops. Okay, now let's take a look at the two different prompts. Okay, now let's take a look with the second one. Okay, so actually when I started to generate this, what do you see as the first obvious difference? The first obvious difference is that ChatGPT is giving me bulleted points now whenever I use the term summary. So in this case, if you actually want some quick summary from ChatGPT, do not use things like Intel or anything else, use proper terms. In this case, ChatGPT will also be able to follow through the thinking process and the thinking notes, which is covered in your notes. So in this case, you can really see that it actually follows the order of a H2 econ syllabus, where it teaches you market equilibrium, which is the intersection of demand and supply, followed by the changes in demand, changes in supply, and the impact on equilibrium, which is your price adjustment process. Yeah. So in this case, ChatGPT is able to answer you in a better way, which is more concise and is more readable for us, compared to paragraph, which is just try to briefly explain what is demand and what is supply, which is not actually targeting the A-level economic syllabus. So in this case, it's very, very important to use full terms and no slangs in order for ChatGPT to answer you better. Okay, so this is related to today one, which is I call it the single question rule. So maybe yesterday you all may have learned deep learning, right? So you all may be wondering, let me use ChatGPT to find out more about a neural network. So in this case, when you're asking ChatGPT a question, make sure to only have one subject. Why only one subject? Because if you actually give ChatGPT two subjects, it will try to prioritize the second subject more than the first subject. And in the end, it will give you a superficial response on both of the subjects. So in this case, instead of asking what's a neural network and a convolutionary neural network, CNN, I will ask it separately. And then you will also see that ChatGPT can use its memory function in order to better answer what is a CNN built from his answer of a neural network. So in this case, I will only be running the first two, which is I'll be running the first prompt, which is the bad prompt. Then I will run the second prompt, which is the better prompt, and let's see the difference. Okay. Okay, as you can see, the first paragraph tries to explain what's a neural network. Then it straight away jumps into a convolutionary neural network. And it will try to explain a lot more about CNN. Okay, maybe because it's more complicated. But as you can see, when you ask him two questions, he won't even answer the basics, which is a neural network in a very superficial level. So in this case, we will always try to use only one subject or a single question rule. So in this case, I will also use the second prompt. Okay. Yes, okay, the first paragraph, it looks the same. And in the second paragraph, you can actually see it gives you insights into deep learning by telling you it's organized in layers. As you can see from the later workshops later, you will understand what it means, instead of giving you superficial one paragraph response. Yeah, in this case, it also does not tell you that it works as a layer. So if you are a beginner who want to understand more of a neural network, you will be using only one subject or one question. Do remember this rule. I think it's one of the most important rule out of all the rules today, because if you really put two subjects into one prompt, all the answers they will give you is superficial. Okay, now let's move on to the last one, which I will not be showing, because currently it's not really okay, this is still work in progress. There's a new type of prompting called chain of thought prompting or chain prompting. So what does chain prompting do is actually you give ChatGPT in this format a question, then you give the answer. A question, then you give the answer. So this maybe try to help improve ChatGPT thinking process. So it will try to think like how you have asked him to think. So in this case, it's adding up all the odd numbers. So you give him 3 examples, then you ask him yourself. Because I mean, you all have read ChatGPT failed PSLE math because it's not trained in a way to do math. So in this case, if you actually maybe train ChatGPT with all the PSLE-like questions, it's possible to let ChatGPT pass math through this method of prompting. It is called chain prompting. So you give him maybe sample questions like maybe some problem sums, and then you give him the thinking process on how to solve. Then maybe if you ask him on how to do the PSLE question, he'll be able to answer you. But the reason why I'm not still going through this is because ChatGPT cannot even do basic math. So I was doing I was asking ChatGPT to do some multiplication, and it can tell me 3 times 6 is 16,000. Yeah. So obviously, let's not try to do math in ChatGPT now, but you can always ask ChatGPT for the thinking process. Yeah. Okay, now for the beginners, I'll be introducing what is PIP and import, and for the intermediate and advanced, you all can take it as a refresher. Okay, so what is PIP? PIP actually stands for Python Package Manager. So actually in Python, you will program on the code, but there are actually also developers or companies which have their own extensions to Python. And these extensions are collectively known as packages which they upload to the server in Python, and you can install it using PIP. So in this case, the usage is, how do you install it in your local system? Is you open your terminal or command prompt, you type pip install the package name. So for today's lesson, we will be using pip install OpenAI. So I'll be running my collab file now. Yes. So you will run the first cell. This is not a given because it's a talk. Yeah. So after you run the first cell, Google Colab will try to connect to the runtime, and so you just give it maybe 1 minute, and it will be running. Okay. So it will look at the server in Python, and it will try to install all the dependencies. Okay, and it runs. So after you use. Okay, my bad. Okay, thanks. Okay, so after you have done it, after you have installed, we will straight away import. So after you install, you need to import it to use it in your Python code. So let's import OpenAI. Okay, yes. So you all are wondering, I don't know whether my API key is still working. So we can try it now. But how do you get your OpenAI key when you want to develop your own web apps? So you can just go to platform.openai.com. Yes. Okay. Then after you log in already, you will come to over here, click on your avatar and click View API Keys, and you can create your new secret key. Yeah, create a secret key. Yes, and then this key can be used. But because my account is I've already finished all my free credits, so this is I generated this key using my other account. So I will not be copy and paste, but you can just copy and paste into these inverted commas. Okay, so now let's run through some necessary things in ChatGPT. So I'll extend here. Okay. Okay. Okay, so this is the sample code of the how to use the API. So in this case, you will see we create a variable response, which is and the output will be the method of chat completion. So chat completion is what API users, what OpenAI uses to call to interact with ChatGPT, and we use the create because we are creating a conversation. So one very interesting thing about in the GPT 3.5 or GPT-4 API, if you all have access to it, is that it has the memory function. So whenever you have the memory function, we need to think, then how do I make ChatGPT have memory? So in this case, what OpenAI did is that they classify it into 3 different roles. So what are the 3 different roles? I know it's a bit unclear here, so I'll go to my next slide. So the first role is actually the system. And the system functions like whatever I said just now, which is the persona. So when the first role that you give ChatGPT is the system role, and which actually controls ChatGPT character, as what I said just now. So in this case, how what we use it is you will see. Later I'll zoom into the code. We create a list of dictionaries. So the first dictionary you put is actually a role of a system, and the role you want to give in the content key. Okay. I'll be running a demo later. Okay. So the second role is actually the user role. So what is the user role? The user role is normally what you just prompt to ChatGPT. So in this case, it's actually just the questions you will ask. So maybe you can try to use your own, you can try to use the prompting techniques I've shared with you all earlier in the user role. And the last one is the assistant role. So the assistant role is the newly introduced in GPT 3.5 API, which is actually not in the other APIs. So it gives ChatGPT the ability to remember whatever he has said to you. So whenever you type inside ChatGPT, any response that they have given you before is also stored in the role of the assistant, in a sense that you will try to you will put this whatever they have given you, and you will put it into their own memory for them to generate better responses. So I'll be running through how to use the roles. So in this case, let me zoom in a little bit more. This is a sample code, right? Oops. Okay, yes. So this is the sample code. The response variable is assigned to the response, the output of OpenAI chat completion and with the create method. So we will specify the model. So the common model now to use is actually GPT 3.5 Turbo, which is also currently the model that you will use interacting with ChatGPT normally. So in this case, you can ignore the temperature and frequency penalty first. I will show you how do I run this code. Yes. So as you can see, I create a list, and this list is actually a list of dictionaries. So for the first dictionary, it has the first line, which is a system role. We are passing a system role. So what I do is that we will type role system, then we put a content. So in the content is the persona that we want to give. In this case, I'm asking him to be a Singaporean. Okay. Then after that, I will give him a user role, which is whatever I want to prompt to him. So I'll be running this code, and we will see what ChatGPT actually gives us. Yes, okay, I will print it over here. Okay, as you can see, the response is successful, and this is what ChatGPT have given us. So they say that the Singapore national anthem is Majulah Singapore, which means onward Singapore in Malay. Yes, and that's true. So in this case, we have already learned 2 things. We have learned that ChatGPT assumes a system role, which is whatever we use to give him a persona, and we have already learned about the user role. So how do we use the assistant role? It's very simple. After you use the user role, you can let ChatGPT remember what he have told you by putting it as a assistant in the role, and the content is you can briefly summarize what he have said to you. Or in this case, you can also put the content to be a variable. Yes. So in this case, I will already tell him that, okay, you have told me that the Singapore national anthem is Majula Singapura. So I want him now to show me the national anthem. So you can really see how she's going. The first line or the first element in the list, you will put it, you will use the system role. Then the second one will be user. Then after you give him every prompt, you will use an assistant role, which is to give him the memory. Then it will alternate between user, assistant, user, assistant, user, assistant when you are communicating with the API. So this is how the flow works. So now I'll be running the code again. Okay. And let's see. He said that I'm sorry. As an AI language model, he will not be able to display the national anthem video due to copyright laws. Okay, but let's try to see how can we fix it by modifying the hyperparameters in ChatGPT. Okay, so the first hyperparameter to take note is actually temperature. So what is temperature? Temperature determines the degree of randomness or creativity in the model response. You can simply treat ChatGPT as something which determines what it's going to write next based on probability. Okay, for the advanced track, you all will be going for a workshop on transformers. You all can rely on that to know. But in general, you all can just understand it. Like, for example, when you type something, like when you type, tell me the national anthem, ChatGPT will try to find the closest word to national anthem, or it will refer back to whatever I've written just now and try to complete the sentence or complete the paragraph for you. So in this case, it's going through all the entire words and it's trying to find the highest possibility, the word with the highest probability, and put it as the next word. And this continues for some time until the probability is very low already, then it ends the prompt. You can just treat it as that way now. So for temperature, it actually ranges from 0 to 2, but not to be confused, it can also take in float values. Float values means you can also pass in decimal values to it. Okay, so the lower the value, it will give you more conservative responses. Means that it will try to, it must have that certain probability before it put it in. If not, it will straight away end the prompt. The higher it goes, it will become more creative in the sense that even words with lower probability, he will also try to add it in. But there's a danger with very high probability in the sense that if you try at home, and you put a temperature of 2, you will notice that it will give you rubbish. It will suddenly give you number sign, asterisk sign, and all of those kind of signs, which is not even answering your question. Okay, so in the default page when you use ChatGPT, I know some of you may be curious, the default value is actually 1. So in this case, we will try to modify the temperature value and see whether it will give us the national anthem. So how will I edit the code? In this case, what I will do is, yes, temperature 1.5. So in this case, I will just put a variable after my model and I assign it a value of 1.5. And do remember the comma, then I will run it again. Okay, with higher temperature, it takes longer to run because it's generating more, it's becoming more creative. So just wait for it. Yes, and as you can see, we have bypassed whatever it said about copyright laws when we increase the probability. So in this case, with a higher temperature value, it will be able to generate for you the national anthem. But as you can see, there are some places with a lot more spaces because it's actually, the space is the highest probability after the word that is generated before it. So in this case, we can actually try to get something out of it, but we will need to fine-tune the other parameters before we are able to use it. So in this case, maybe if I put the temperature value to be 1.4 or 1.3, it may be able to generate the better the national anthem. So we can actually try it with 1.4 and see whether does it give that distorted response. Okay. Yes, and you can see it actually gives us a lot better response. And this is more relevant to the Singapore national anthem. Just now, if you all look closely, there's also some random spaces and random English words. So in this case, whenever you want to try to fine-tune a model, we will need to we will need to really test out all these kind of different hyperparameters before we publish our own model or use the fine-tune method. So in this case, you may want to play around with the temperature and see which value gives you the best responses. Okay, the second hyperparameter I'm going to introduce to you is presence penalty. So what is presence penalty? Because ChatGPT sometimes like to use the same word over and over again, and we don't want it because it don't sound like human. ChatGPT is supposed to sound like human, right? So we will try to use, we will put in this hyperparameter, which is actually presence penalty. So what presence penalty do is that it prevents ChatGPT from using the same words too often. Yes. And in this case, it actually ranges from -2 to 2, and you can also use a lot more. You can also use a lot more values. Floats also can use. So in this case, I will actually set the presence penalty to 1. The default for presence penalty is 0 in when you use ChatGPT. So I'll just run it again. Okay, let's see what actually it gives us. Yes, you can see that the last word become a bit more weird because, and some of the words like this sentence, right, is actually invalid because ChatGPT is actually penalizing itself for using the same phrase over and over again, right? So for example, if there's some lyrics which is repeated, you will notice that that part, right, ChatGPT will maybe give you a more weird answer because it don't want to repeat the same word again. So in this case, presence penalty have this effect. Okay. Okay. The last one will be frequency penalty. So what does frequency penalty do? It actually criticizes ChatGPT for using rare words. So you know sometimes ChatGPT English is very cheap and it's not human-like, right? So in this case, we can use frequency penalty to make it sound more natural. So just now presence penalty criticizes ChatGPT for using too many of the same words. Frequency penalty penalizes ChatGPT for using rare words or words that humans do not use. So it again ranges from -2 to 2, and it actually defaults to 0. Okay. Yes. So in this case, let us try with frequency penalty of 1, and let's see whether our response did change or not. So in this case, maybe you all will be guessing, if I put frequency penalty, it's not likely that the data that ChatGPT is trained on, the humans there do not speak Malay. So in this case, you can expect the national anthem to not be printed. Okay, with more parameters, the response takes a bit longer. Okay, actually it still came back, but you can really see that some of the Malay words, which is the complete our national anthem, is not actually right. Okay, this thing about ChatGPT is that the responses change every day. So when I was testing it yesterday with this set of parameters, it actually didn't manage to generate these lyrics lah. So in this case, I will try to actually make the frequency penalty higher to let's see whether it will stop ChatGPT from generating the national anthem. Okay, now let's see the code. Okay, it actually still managed to generate, but you can really see that the lyrics are starting to get more and more distorted. In this sense, it is the lyrics is starting to get mixed up already, because it is criticizing it for using these rare words. I think in this case, I may try to comment off my temperature because I don't want it to be more creative. So I can try with another round with presence and frequency penalty. Okay. Yes, and in this case, I restrict ChatGPT creativity, and in this case now, it's not being able to give me whatever national anthem is trying to say. So in this case, they will ask you to go back and watch videos on YouTube or Vimeo for the national anthem of Singapore, and you can really see that it's actually phrasing more like a human. It uses inclusive pronouns like I, and then you, so it actually sounds a lot more human. Okay. So I have some time for an extension. So let's see how ChatGPT is being used in some projects nowadays. So I'm pretty sure some of you may have heard of AutoGPT or ChatPDF. So in this case, I'll be showing with you with LangChain on how to use ChatGPT to interact with your documents. Okay, so again, we need to set up. Okay, wait. Yes. Okay, when in setting up, I will just run through what is a prompt template. So in some software developers or some developers nowadays, you need to prompt ChatGPT in a way which they can answer the best. So we'll create something known as a prompt template, in a sense that you will write a template for them, and then they will just fill in the words that they need to introduce. So in this case is I want ChatGPT to be a naming consultant. Then I put whatever the product is in curly braces, in a sense that the user will be able to control what is it here. So the product is arbitrary in this case. So the product can be ice cream, the product can be maybe drinks. Yeah, but we will see an example with building blocks. Okay. So yes, preparing a template. So in this case, this is a very short example. So we will have some information. So in this case, I have extracted some information from the Building Blocks website. You can see over here where it's actually in one of the website now. So I just copy and paste it into here, and I want ChatGPT to give me a summary or whatever I want to ask. So this is the information. It is a multi-line string. So I've already put the relevant quotation marks. Then I can also create a template. So how will the template look like? So in this case, I will just tell it, I just tell it what I want. So in this case, I put it in bulleted points. I say that, oh, I want a short summary of this organization and I want its vision. So in this case, ChatGPT, you will connect your own data with GPT in order to give you a response. So let me just run the summary template. And the information over here is whatever I've written over here. So the information is up for the user to put inside, but the template is already written by the developers. So in this case, the user just needs to throw in any information that they want for them to summarize. Okay, then we will create the prompt template with the prompt template function. And then the information, we'll put it as a list, right? Because there can be multiple of these. And the template that we'll be using is the summary template. Okay, then you can just set up a connection with OpenAI. Yep. And you'll be able to run it. Yes. Yeah, as you can see, ChatGPT have connected to your own data and it will be able to give you a response. Yeah, so as you can see, for the first one, I asked him what Building Blocks is about. Yeah, a short summary of the organization. So he told me it's a student-led outreach programs that aim to promote exposure to computing and computer science for these students. They organize activities and share their approaches to computing. Yeah, I think it's a very good summary of what Building Blocks actually do. Okay, and the second one, I want to see is vision. So as you can see, maybe I don't really think we have a vision on our website, but ChatGPT will try to summarize a vision based on whatever they have read or whatever ChatGPT has went through. So in this case, yeah, it's actually really summarize our vision, putting quality education to everyone and building a digital literacy level in everyone. So in this case, it really help us to summarize information more concisely. And if you are interested in it, because for the interest of time, you can actually go YouTube or the NLB Udemy business. There are some courses over there to teach you how to use the OpenAI API. Then you can build applications with LangChain in order to make your learning better. Or in order for you to summarize your school notes or any of the relevant notes that your teacher has given you, you can maybe create your own model. Okay, so actually this might end, but since I have some more time, we can do something related to what we have learned today. So I will ask ChatGPT to write a 4-liner ending speech, right? 4-liner Okay, yes. Okay, this may be more too creative. So actually, you can also use temperature values and presence and frequency penalty in ChatGPT. Let me just show you how. So you can actually give ChatGPT a persona. So I'm doing a real-time example on how to use the prompting techniques I've taught you just now. So you can say you are ChatGPT with the set parameters. Huh? Okay, yes. So I want it to be less creative. So I will set a lower temperature value. So I'll put it at 0.8. Then maybe I want it to use more human words. So I will use frequency penalty. Okay. Okay, as you can see, ChatGPT have realized this fact, and it will be able to. And let me just throw in this to write the ending speech for me. Yes, and it's able to give me less creative response. Yeah. Okay. I should read a portion of the speech to end it. So let me choose which one is better. Okay. Okay, yeah. Never mind. Let me just do my own summary. Do remember to use ChatGPT for your own learning, because it's able to help you more productively use your school notes if you are building applications with LangChain, or prompt ChatGPT with the tips that I shared with you today. You can find my materials at the website. I think the buildingblocks.sg/materials. It is already there. So do ensure to use my slides in order to make your learning better. Thank you.